This is Journey Instruments OF660 carbon fiber guitar called the Overhead. It's called the Overhead because this neck actually detaches, and I'll show you how that works in a minute. And it fits into this overhead bag for airplane travel. So there's been a lot of really great reviews on this thing on YouTube and on the forums, but all the great videos shows professional musicians playing these things, and it sounds great, but they can make anything sound amazing. Or some of the reviews are done by like stores selling them, so they might be a little biased. So this review is from a non-professional musician, as you'll hear, but it's just kind of what I think of this guitar and how it compares to other wooden guitars and kind of travel guitars that I have. So I'll go into the tone. That's kind of one of the most important things, and then playability and the design. And a bit of spoiler warning, I love this guitar. This is just amazing, especially paired up with the ToneWood Amp, which I'll get to in a minute. So first, let's check out the tone. All the guitars use Elixir NanoWeb's 8020s, and all light gauge except for the Lower Martin. It's using a medium gauge because of the extreme short scale. So tone is a very subjective thing, right? So everyone's got different tastes. Comment below to see what you think of the sound of this guitar. I noticed right away the volume is lower than the other guitars. So I find that I compensate for that by just picking harder with my right hand. So next, let's talk about the playability of this thing. It has a 1 3/4 nut as compared to all the other ones that I showed you have 1 11/16. I actually prefer this nut, but it's very little difference between this and other sizes for me. The saddle string spacing is 2 1/4, which is great. That's what I notice more. If the string spacing is more narrow here, it's very hard to play fingerstyle for me, where I can adapt to different size nuts much easier. The setup on this thing, it was perfect right out of the box. On the forums, I've been reading that the action is too high for most people, and it comes with a high saddle. It also comes with a spare saddle that you can put in for lower action. And it's actually really easy to change the action or the saddle on this thing, because you just break the neck apart and then put it in. It's a pretty easy and quick process. So you can have a saddle for strumming and a different one for finger picking that's much lower. But mine came with the saddle being very, very low, and the spare saddle that came with is actually the same size. I'm not complaining because I prefer very low action, and this was perfect. I didn't need to adjust truss rod, it was perfectly set up. Even the nut is cut perfectly, which is just doesn't happen very often. So I'm one of those guys that love tweaking with guitars, and I've upgraded my nut and saddle and everything on the other guitars that you've seen, and this guitar didn't need that. In fact, it has good tuners too. So between the tuners, the bone nut, the bone saddle, the ebony bridge pins, like there's nothing to upgrade on this thing, which is pretty crazy. And I'm not used to that. I like improving things, but there's really not much to improve on this thing. So let's get back to action. There was no buzz or anything on it, and the action is, let's see what it written down, 1.75 millimeters on the low, on the 12th fret, and 1.25 millimeters on the high, which is very low, and that's kind of how I like it. That's 0.08 inches on the low and 0.05 on the high, so it's super low. Even strumming, I don't get buzz, but again, I don't usually strum with a pick very hard or very often for that matter. The neck, let's see, the profile of the neck is awesome. This feels like it feels like the Taylors, and also kind of my PRS electric guitar kind of feels like this. It's kind of thin, and it's got a gloss, a finish on it. Like the rest of the guitar is just a gloss. I hate gloss necks, and on my PRS I actually sanded it down so it got a satin kind of neck on it. But on this guitar, there's something about this resin carbon fiber finish that doesn't quite feel like the lacquer and the polyurethane. So it, like, even though it's glossy, I don't feel like it's very sticky. So once summer hits, I'll see if I feel differently. I need to kind of satin it down, but as of right now, I feel like the neck is perfect. It's also very comfy for its size, right? It's a kind of good size for me. I'm not a very big guy. I'm 5'10", so I'm just kind of average-ish guy. And this is very comfy size-wise. It's not a big dreadnought where you kind of feel like you're out here. It's comfortable to the body. It does have this little cutaway for the belly, and which I need. It also has this armrest, which is really comfortable, especially for a smaller guitar. Like on dreadnoughts, I feel like I'm kind of resting my elbow on it. On a smaller guitar, you're kind of resting this part right here on it, and that can cut into your arm because you're trying to hold the guitar in. So on the GS Mini, I've actually had to get one of these things, armresting to make it more comfortable when I'm playing, right? And so the overhead already has the armrest, which is really nice. It's also wedged, so you can kind of see that it's fatter on the bottom, skinnier on top, so it kind of angles it a bit, which is very comfortable. It is a little bit slippery, I would say, compared to other guitars I have, but not so much that it's going to slide out of the way. But I'm just one of the little things I noticed is a bit more slippery. Most of the other guitars I have is actually more satin finished. So that's it. It is slightly neck heavy because of the over-engineered joint right here. So it is a little bit neck heavy, but it's nowhere near the Laurel Martin LX1, which is just kind of falls over. This thing, if you're not really holding it really tight on here, it just falls over. Even with a strap, it feels weird. It kind of wants to tip down. The overhead doesn't have that issue. It just feels a little heavy, but I don't feel like I'm supporting the weight with my fretting hand here, but I do have to clamp it down here. But the whole thing is just really comfortable. It actually feels a little bit more like an electric guitar than acoustic, because everything's kind of formed nicely. It does have this little cutaway, so you can kind of get up higher, but again, I'm not professional musician, so I don't actually spend a lot of time up here, but that's a nice touch. It's there's no heel right here, so it's very comfortable. So this is how you take the neck apart for traveling. So all you have to do is turn this little wing nut here all the way, so it's completely off. And then there's this little button that just detaches the neck, and you can fit it in this travel bag. It comes with this bag. It fits in there. So, and it's even got this thing so that the strings don't scratch up the surface. So they thought of everything here. And this zips all up. There's lots of pockets, so there's enough to put in actually a laptop, iPads and stuff. There's actually even more in the back for another more stuff. You can pack a lot in here, and this is also a backpack, right? So it's just an easy traveling package. So compared to this is the smallest guitar. I have the LX1, the Lowell Martin travel guitar. So you can kind of see the difference in size here. So this fits the overhead compartment. It's the right dimensions. This is too long, so you might be, although this fit in the overhead, you might be forced to check it if space is limited. So you can kind of see the difference in size here. This is much bigger guitar, but overall you can get it to a much smaller size because of the amazing design. So next I want to talk about the ToneWood Amp, which is this little gadget you put on the back of your guitar that adds effects. You use the back of your guitar as a speaker essentially and adds effects to your guitar. It works great on the wooden guitars. I didn't know how well it would do on a carbon fiber guitar. It works great. And I love this combination. It really makes this guitar shine in my opinion. You do get feedback on this though, a little bit more than I was getting off a wooden guitar. So you do have to use the frequency cutoff, and I'll post my my settings on the description of this video so you can see what my settings are. And I kind of put it here because it's kind of a little bit more out of the way for when you put a strap and stand up. It's a little bit more out of the way. But you can put it in different places to see what you like, and if you do, the frequency cutoffs might need to be different. But make sure you adjust your frequency cutoffs with the seek and destroy method, because if you don't do it just right, you get kind of this really weird airy sound, even if you're not getting feedback, and it just doesn't sound good. But once you find the right frequency, this thing really shines. So let me show you what it sounds like. So that's a little plate reverb. And if I turn the volume all the way down, this is what it sounds like dry. So you can hear that compared to, let me turn the volume back up. It's just this natural reverb, right? It sounds great. So the overhead also has passive pickups, so that's great because it doesn't drain the battery. I just leave this thing plugged in all the time. My other guitars, I do have to unplug the ToneWood amp every time I got done playing, otherwise it drains the battery for the guitar pickups. So that's it. I strongly recommend a ToneWood amp. It's just amazing. It makes your guitar sounds great, and especially for the overhead, I think it gives a tiny bit of increase in volume, just a hair, but the effects just sounds really great. So let's talk about the pros and cons of this guitar. The pros, I've already said, great action, feels great quality, top notch, everything already fully upgraded, comfortable, all that stuff, and the tone's good. But the biggest pro for me is and the reason I got this guitar is because it's carbon fiber. I can leave it out all the time. I don't have to worry about it. With my wooden guitars, they need to be humidified. Even here in Northern California, where the weather's really nice, right now the relative humidity inside right now is 26%, and that's too low for the guitars to be kind of out and just kind of keep out next to the couch where I'm at a lot. Even with room humidifiers, it's not enough to get a big living room to kind of get up to the right humidity levels. So I was looking for a guitar that I could just leave out all the time, but also temperature, right? So when a guitar store first get shipments of guitars in, they actually leave it in the box for a day before they open it up so that it can slowly adjust to the temperature, because the sudden temperature or humidity change, but mostly probably temperature, could crack the finish, or worse, the guitar, the wood, or warp it and all that kind of stuff. So quick environmental changes is really bad. And one of the things that I love doing the most when I'm playing the guitar is to play outside. There's something about it that I can't explain that feels like when I'm outside, I'm just playing, I'm enjoying it. Where when I'm playing indoors, I feel like I'm practicing, I'm working on something. So even here in good weather, in the summer, it's 70 some degrees indoors. As soon as you open the door, it's within a second it's 80, 90 degrees, and I like to be out there playing in the sun and stuff. And so that kind of temperature change I always feel really nervous about with my guitars. I don't do that as much as I'd like to. So this guitar is perfect. You don't have to worry about any of that. I just walk out with this thing. Just sit in the backyard playing, watching the kids, and when I'm playing, I could be out there doing barbecues, and kind of have a strap kind of hanging on my guitar and just play while I'm waiting for the meat to cook. I can play next to a fireplace in the winter and not worry about all the heat and the dryness that's happening. So that's the main reason, that the biggest pro for me. The fact that this fits into overhead and it's good for travel, that's a bonus. That's really, really great. But the main reason for me is the kind of everyday guitar, everyday couch guitar. I can sit here and play. I can play anywhere and not worry about it. So the cons, there's some minor, kind of more like a wish list more than a con, which are the bridge pins sit really high up. Not quite sure why it's so far off. They're higher than the Martin ones. And I actually have other bridge pins. I have a whole bunch of bridge pins I've tried, and some fit better than this, but it doesn't really affect the tone or design of this thing. They don't pop out or anything. So I just left the stock ones in. The other thing is the carbon fiber weave is not on the front face of the guitar, and that's really unfortunate because I think that would look really beautiful, but for manufacturing reasons they couldn't put it on the top. The one kind of a con that I have is this end pin jack. One of these strap holder end jack kind of things. This diameter is actually too big to fit in my straps. I tried it on a whole bunch of straps, and the holes were kind of getting stretched out, and they didn't quite feel like it was really secure on there when you put a strap on. So I actually switched this out to one that I had laying around, just a little piezo end jack kind of thing. So this is the new one, and it fits better. It fits the straps better. So that's a minor little thing. Luckily it's easily replaced, and it's not expensive to replace the little thing back there. If you don't use a strap, don't worry. Maybe you're not as paranoid as I am, and having it not feel like it's completely secure on the strap is okay for you, especially with the ToneWood amp. Once you click this in, the strap is probably not going to come out, but I'm just kind of paranoid like that because I do like I say, I play outside while I'm barbecuing with the hanging behind me kind of a thing, so I want to make sure that it's very secure. The biggest con the biggest real con on this thing is the price. That's the only thing that feels like all those things I just mentioned are minor in comparison, right? The biggest con is the price, obviously. This is a $1,200 guitar, which is kind of low end for a lot of people that are into, cruiser guitars. But for me, that's double my Yamaha Transacoustic, right? That FG Transacoustic has essentially a ToneWood amp built in, kind of a thing, and that thing is half the price of this thing. But of course, that's a wooden guitar, and this is a carbon fiber guitar. And for carbon fiber guitars, this is actually on the cheap end of things. This is actually one of the cheapest carbon fiber guitars. So the price is what's gonna stop a lot of people from getting one of these things, and that's the biggest con. But I do have a special tip for you, which is how I got this guitar, why I got this guitar. I contacted Journey Instruments. They have blemished models, B stock, and you can ask to see if they have more in stock, and you can get a deal on them. So blemished models are they're just kind of B stock, right? They're not perfect. There's something cosmetic on it. It's not structural. It's not playability. Like, it doesn't affect tone. Nothing. It's just some kind of cosmetic issue. And I found two. One is there's a little spot that is really hard to see, and I can't even see it right now. There it is. So over here, there's a carbon fiber, like the weave is kind of like missing or something. It's just like darker than the other places, right? The camera's not even picking it up because it's really hard to see, and it's in the back. It doesn't affect anything. It's just a little, blemish. The only other thing that I found was the truss rod cover. A hole was drilled in at like a little bit off, looks like, and then they fixed it, so you can kind of see here, right there. So that's just a piece of little plastic. It's actually would be pretty easy to just make that part and replace it if you care. But again, it's not really noticeable. Like, it's not a big ding or something like that, So I would check in with Journey Instruments to see if they have any of those available to you. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Sorry this ended up being a really long video because I really love this guitar. I really want to share it with you guys. So please comment if you have any questions, or if you want to share your experiences with one of these guitars. Please comment below, like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.